Hey, good evening. Sorry, you caught me choking on my own little cup of coffee. Good evening, Facebook family and friends. It's great to see you tonight. And those of you who are joining us from Facebook or joining me on my YouTube channels, it's great to see you tonight. I can't even begin to tell you the last few days what it's been like. And I know many of you are still, and we're still grieving over George Floyd and the whole tragedy. And I wanted to start tonight by pausing for a moment. I saw an interview with his sister this morning, his family, and I want to pause and just honor his life, honor his family, and most of all, as a Caucasian woman who has a congregation that's predominantly African American, to say that what happened was wrong and there was injustice, and we must stop this injustice. So I want to open up with a word of silence, a moment of silence in honor of George Floyd. Gracious and eternal God, we thank you for who you are. And more importantly, we call on you like David did in the Psalms tonight and say we need help. What happened to George Floyd on Monday evening, again, was tragic, as I spoke about it last night, and I'll keep talking about it. And we ask you to comfort his family, bring peace, but bring justice. God, bring justice. Bring justice. We call upon you for that tonight. And as David said, we lift up our eyes to the hills from whence cometh our help. We know tonight, God, it comes from you. We thank you now. In Jesus' name I pray and praise. Amen. Amen, amen. So many of you know that on, let me just get my phone together here so I can see sometimes what's really happening. Know that every night, I hope you enjoyed us last night with our young brothers, Apostle Jabari and Isaac, Minister in Training Isaac from the DC area. Great, beautiful young men, beautiful family, sharing with us about life and ministry there in the DC area. We're grateful for that. That was on Tuesday night. I want to remind you that on Friday again this week, and I know last week we had our couples of faith last week and the week before, but this Friday night we have a great lineup in talking about singles of faith. And we're having various individuals who are, some are in the ministry. Are all of them pastors? All of them are pastors who are some single and still looking, and some singles by choice. Want to be single, say they're married to the ministry. So I think that you will enjoy that. We have a lovely pastor from the Seattle area, my dear friend, Pastor Doretha from Sacramento area. We have two wonderful, incredible women, Pastor Stacy Hilton, Pastor Cheryl Bell from the Las Vegas area, who pastor a New Thought Church there, the Centers for Spiritual Living of Las Vegas. Love those two sisters so much. And also my new radical brother from Phoenix, Arizona. And I know he is going crazy right now around what has happened with this precious brother, George Floyd. I'm going to keep saying his name, but this pastor is in Phoenix, Redeem Robinson. Radical, but a beautiful brother, pastoring a new church there in Phoenix, Arizona, entitled Ebenezer. So let's get busy tonight. 3 weeks ago, I think it was, we had Anthony Johnson, quite funny, Anthony Johnson on, who I've been connected with Anthony for a number of years, and he shares some work with some attorneys entitled United Educational Financial Services. I believe that's the name of it. And they help folks get their credit together. And we must understand how important credit is and the things. And so if you don't remember what happened, please go back and watch either on the YouTube channel or on Facebook Live. But tonight I'm really, really excited. I want to say this, that I have a young sister in my life who is a beautiful human being. She sits on my board of my nonprofit, and she has a group of sisters, and I saw them talking a week ago and talking about money and budgeting and money and saving and money and buying houses. And I was really, really blessed. And so I called her and asked her a question, and she connected me with this precious sister that I'm glad to come on tonight with us. And so I'm wondering if you would please give her a wonderful virtual welcome to Phyllis Johnson. Hey, yay. There's all our virtual clapping in the background, Phyllis.
Thank you.
Yes. We're glad to have you with us on tonight. And I know that you have a consulting business, but I'm wondering if you could open up with us and introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit about you, how you got where you are today in your business, and then we'll start talking about budgeting. Now, those of you who are watching us, get your pen and your paper, get your recorders, whatever you're going to do. Tell your family and friends, start watch parties, please share this. This is really, really, really important. I want to tell you today that folks would love it if you would not succeed, but we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let that happen. We want you to succeed. And as a pastor, I tell you all the time, I'm trying to put tools in your hands. And so we want you to be successful. So Phyllis, tell us about yourself and tell us about your company.
Sure. So good evening, everyone. My name is Phyllis Johnson. I am here in Las Vegas. I'm originally from California. I own PKJ Consulting. We are an accounting and consulting business here in Las Vegas. We do everything from accounting, payroll, bookkeeping, taxes, HR, startup services such as business plans and LLCs. I started my business 5 years ago now because I've always had a passion of helping entrepreneurs. Growing up in the Bay Area, California, there were a lot of people who would start businesses, and I never understood why they would start and stop and why they would close. And so as I got older and really took interest in numbers, my mom worked at the IRS and my dad worked at the Bank of America, so it was pretty much a given that I was going to go into numbers. I started realizing that it wasn't because someone wasn't good at being a restaurant owner, or they weren't a good cook, or they were not a good seamstress, or whatever their passion was. They're amazing at it, but they didn't understand the financial background behind it. And then a lot of times people jump into a business, but in their own personal life, they don't understand, budgeting and finances and accounting and bookkeeping. And those are the things that keep you in business. It's typically not because your food is bad that you go out of business. It's because you forgot to pay a tax bill, or even on your personal lifestyle, you may transfer money from your business into your personal, you get audited by the IRS, and now you own this huge tax bill. And so I went to Pepperdine University. I have my bachelor's degree in business admin, accounting, and finance. And then I moved to Vegas because living in LA is really expensive, or Malibu specifically. And I got my MBA focused in entrepreneurship management, and then also got my online teaching certification, and I'm QuickBooks certified. So I'm very passionate about learning, education, but I'm also passionate about really teaching. So I do a lot of trainings virtually, and I also do some stuff with the Nevada Women's Business Center here in Vegas. And so when Bonnie reached out to me today to join this, I hopped on the opportunity because I am very passionate about people understanding their numbers and really not being afraid, because it's going to really help you grow and succeed in the long run. So thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much. So let's dive right into it, because I want to talk about budgeting tonight. And I know people are going to say, Bishop, but I think that one of the things that's important is for us to understand it. So I'm wondering if you could answer a very simple question, and that is this: how important is budgeting?
It is Very important. It's extremely important. And the reason it's important is it doesn't matter if you make $10,000 or $1 million. If you do not budget your money, you will find yourself in a situation where when it's time to retire, you have nothing saved up. In case of an emergency, yes, we're going through a pandemic. I'm not going to touch on that too much because there's always something that's going to happen. Let's think back to the last 5 years of your life when you may have unfortunately lost your job, or maybe your kids got sick, or maybe your car broke down. And so if you don't have a budget and have money saved up for these things that will continually happen, it puts you in a financial strait. And so what ends up happening is you may be on a good path to maybe buy a house, but now this emergency popped up that you did not budget for, and now everything is on hold, or you end up owing extra money, or you're taking out these payday loans with these insane interest rates.
Woo!
And so really having a budget ultimately gives you control over your life. If you don't have a budget, if you're not tracking your money, your income, you're giving someone else, the government, control over your life. You're giving the IRS control over your life. You're giving having a boss. Everyone should work. Please do. But if you, for example, want to quit your job and start a business, but you don't have a budget or saving up money, you're in the control of that person and them giving you that paycheck every week, because you'll never be able to leave because you're not keeping track of your money.
Absolutely. And you said something really quick. I just want to address this. Payday loans. Okay. So I'm going to say something. I'm going to let you say something, because I believe they're horrific. They're demons. I don't even know the ugly words I want to say. Please. They trap you and make you enslaved. Hear me, people. To them. The percentages are outrageous. I want to encourage you, please don't do that. There are other ways. And you say to me, Bishop Howe, call me, 877-386-3806. I'll show you how. There are a lot of different ways. Some of you have stuff in your house that you could sell to make money. But most importantly, we need to talk about budgeting tonight and saving, so that you don't have to get into a situation where you're in a payday loan at some god-awful 500, 400%. I have people, Phyllis, who sit in my office, come to me for counseling, crying because they are just in that cyclical cycle.
Yes.
They get paid and they've got to go pay them back, and the interest rate just tears them up. And they never, ever get ahead because the interest rate tears them up. Is that your experience?
Definitely. I've worked with a lot of people who take out these loans, and it is a form of slavery, because I want you guys to think of this when you're going to do a payday loan. I have on this shirt. I don't know where I bought this shirt on, but let's just say maybe I spent $20 on it. And now I decided I'm going to take out a payday loan. The interest rate is like 30%. So now when I finally pay off this shirt, I paid $300 for this shirt. That's how you need to think of it. Think of every item that you've ever purchased. Your car, maybe you bought some car. That's what people usually get payday loans for. They trade in their car. Maybe you paid it off $6,000. By the time you pay off that payday loan, you're paying $10,000, $15,000 for a car. It is the worst thing that you can do is to get into that cycle. Do not get in also the cycle of the whole, I'm going to pay it with my tax refund. Tax refunds are not a guarantee. The tax laws change every single year. So when the tax law change, what happens is you cannot guarantee that just because you got $3,000-4,000 last year that you're going to get that same amount this year. You need to, but if you have a budget, that goes to that is, you can create an emergency credit card situation. And I was telling Bonnie today, yes, today I'm great at finances. I mean, I know exactly what I spent in the last 2 weeks down to the penny. But when I first graduated from college with an accounting degree, I had over $25,000 in credit cards, on multiple credit cards. And this is someone who was taking accounting, finance classes, but they don't always teach you real life situations, and so you get in these situations where you're owing all this money, and a lot of us just pay the minimum balance. We don't want to look at it. And so I ended up, because I owed so much money and I couldn't pay my student loans, I did the thing where some people do, I kept going to school. So that's why I have all these extra degrees, is because I was going to school to defer my student loans. And one thing I did was I took a real life finance class, and it forced me to look at my interest rates and how much money I was spending on these credit cards. And so for 2 years, I became extremely disciplined. I ate quesadillas and Sunny Delight for 2 years straight just so I could pay off these credit cards. I was that serious about getting my finances in order and not having them control me. So it's definitely possible.
I think you said a key word right there. And by the way, okay, so I'm going to take a little time out because I see y'all trying to do this. You've heard her call me Bonnie. I know you tell me Bishop, but look, that's not the relationship that Phyllis and I have. So people are going, wait, your name is not Bonnie, it's Bishop, just so you know, Phyllis.
I apologize. I apologize.
No, it's okay. You don't know. You don't know.
Out of respect, I will call you Bishop Bonnie. I have a client, her name is Bonnie as well, and you kind of remind me of her. She has like a great spirit about her. So it just kind of reminds me that I'm talking to her.
No problem. No problem. I guarantee you though, these little people on the side say, wait a minute, that's not your name. They don't know me like that. My first name is Bishop. It's too funny. Come on, let's go back to a couple of things. Number one, you said the discipline that it takes for 2 years to pay off credit cards. And one of the things that I tell people is, and we put people on plans, even at $150,000 they owed and got it paid off in less than 3 years. How important is it to not carry, I need folks to hear me, not carry balances on high interest rate credit cards?
It's extremely important unless you are super disciplined. And what I say by that is, I'm not going to tell people you shouldn't have credit cards, but I say this very lightly. First, you need to be responsible. You have to look at what those interest rates are. If your interest rates are 17%, take anything that you buy and just literally add, times 20% to it. So if you buy something that's $1,000, it's now $1,200, but it keeps going every single month. So if you don't pay it back that first month, keep adding that 200 to keep doing it. So you don't, unless you're disciplined enough to pay it off every single month, there's no reason. There's so many credit cards out there that will give you different benefits, that will have a lower APR, that you can negotiate a lower rate. And that's why having a budget gets you in control in that mindset. Now, when I say not having a credit card, you should have a credit card that helps you with emergencies. And the other thing it does is it helps your credit score. And so, when I decided I wanted to buy a house, of course you need good credit. And they rather you have some credit than no credit at all. And so what I got in the habit of doing was, I have, credit card, I paid off all the other ones, but I just started using that same credit card for everything I could think of, but paying it off multiple times during the month. That is the key to increasing your credit scores. Pay it off a few times during the month. And so, I was able to get my credit score up. Right now, it's around 820, which is beautiful. I mean, can't get any better than that. So you have to get in a disciplined mindset, but stay away from those high APR percentage. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it in the long run.
You're absolutely right. All right, let's steer back to the budgeting aspect. I think that one of the hardest parts about creating a budget is really sitting down and starting it. Can you help folks know, how do you really start with a budget? I really wanted to be very elementary coming out of the starting block tonight. Please, we are not trying to condemn you. I think that some of you, maybe even in your age, have never done a budget. You don't know. There are apps. I'm wondering, where would you suggest that folks start? How would they start a budget? What do you encourage them to do?
Honestly, the first step, and this is just very easy, grab a pen, grab a paper. You don't need a computer. You don't need a tablet, a phone, nothing. Grab a pen, grab a paper, set a 15-minute timer is what I tell my clients, 15 minutes, and write down what you know. Write down what your mortgage is, what your rent is, what your car payment is. Just write it down on a piece of paper because it gets you comfortable. Add up those numbers with a calculator, manual, however you do it. So it gets you comfortable with that process of just feeling that you can do that step. The second step I would tell people is to, before you even get an app, because really it's all about mindset. You know, a lot of people don't want to do a budget because of their mindset. And so I never tell people, oh, just get this app, because you throw the app in there, but if you're scared to look at it, it's worthless and useless. So look at your bank statement, you know, sit down and really just take some time, look at what you're spending your money on. Because I know everyone that I meet, they all know how much their mortgage is and their utilities and that type of stuff. What happens a lot of times is we are using Uber Eats, or we're using Lyft, or we're using Uber, or we're getting our nails done, or we're getting our hair done. Those are the expenses that gets us in trouble when it comes to creating a budget, because we don't think about those things, but those things add up. Even if you tell me that you're going to 7-Eleven and you're spending $2 or $3 here every once in a while, yeah, but if you do that times 30 days, that's an extra $100 that you're not accounting for, which is $1,200 a year. So that would be the second step, is just getting yourself in the mindset of looking at the information, not being afraid. Then the next step I would say is, you know, there are a lot of different apps, you know, and the easiest ones are mint.com, for example. That's a good one because it connects to everything. So your banking account, your credit card, if you owe student loans, for example, your assets, liability, it's just kind of pulls in all the information. But make sure you're in that mindset to do that process. But the good thing about like something like Mint is you're able to track everything. So you can truly see how much you're spending on food, and you can truly see how much you're spending on disposable items. And it also lets you set a financial goal. So if your goal is to buy a house, for example, it lets you start accumulating money and seeing, you know, that happiness that you're making it to your goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And can you talk about the discipline that it takes to follow that budget?
Yes. The first thing I would tell people is, what is your goal? You know, start with your why. You know, why do you need a budget? For me, it's two reasons. I like freedom. You know, I like to be able to control my own destiny. You know, if I choose today that I want to just hop in a car and just go, or if I just don't want to do it, you know, it's control. The second reason is my daughter. You know, I want to create a situation where a lot of times we are not able to leave our kids something. And so now when it's time for them to go to college, they have to take out student loans, or they take out credit card debt, and then they keep passing it on and passing on, where we have people who have created generational wealth where their kids are set for life. And so my why is, I want my daughter to be in a better financial situation than I was in growing up, you know, and that way she can pass on that information. And so that really is my why. So now that I have that why, yeah, of course, I splurge. I mean, let's be realistic. Everyone does. You have to do that. But your goal, what is your goal? You know, if your goal is to buy a house, you know, how serious is it that you buy that purse, or you go get your nails done or something of that nature? You know, if you sacrifice for 2 or 3 years, you'll have a house, which is an asset. And the biggest thing that people should learn, especially during times like this, is my house is not paid for, but I have equity in this house. And so in case of a huge emergency, I mean, I have no access to any money, I could take equity out of my house and still be okay. So that is my mindset and my reasoning. If you rent a place right now, you know, there's no equity. You're not building up a legacy. There's nothing that you could do. Yeah, right now they're letting you not pay your rent, but once that's over, they're going to kick you out. You know, and so that's kind of you have to figure out your why and what your long-term and short-term goals are.
Absolutely. And speaking of a house, next week I'm going to bring someone on that will talk about that. There's so many. One of the things that I thought was amazing when I moved to Nevada was that there are so many wonderful plans here, and especially right now, that help you to buy a house. And interest rate is really, really low. You need to get your credit together. But there is an opportunity for you. If you don't own a home, the Bible even tells us that we're to be landowners, more than one. Come on, somebody.
Yes.
And also the other part about it is, and I'll answer this question in just a minute. I mean, I want to ask this question and then you address it. But owning a home, listen, If you just say it's impossible, then I need you to get possibly minded. Get possibility minded, because it is possible. Now, it might take a little bit of discipline over the next year or two, but I guarantee you, I remember when I bought my first home a number of years ago, 20, 30 years ago. I remember, like you, I went on a budget. I went on an eating plan. We saved so money. Even at one point, we moved in with some folks who helped us for 3 or 4 months to even save extra big cash to make sure. And you know, we bought a fixer-upper and had to learn how certain things. But let me tell you what, I bought that house, and 3 years later, turned it around and sold it for double what I bought it for. So more than double what I bought it for. So sometimes you have to start somewhere, but then your goal can be something else. For an example, I knew that house was not my dream home, but it was a place to start, and a place where I knew I could gain some equity if I fixed it up and did some things to it, which I did. And then I was able to move in the bigger, better place, some kind of a place like that. So those are kind of things that are really important. Let me ask you this, Phyllis, how important is a savings account?
It's critical. I mean, you should always have 6 months worth of savings. And that sounds to a lot of people, you know, how do I do that? You know, it's impossible. It's not. It really is not. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and have 6 months of savings, but start somewhere. If you decide to just every week, $5 put into your savings account, that's $20 a month. Everyone has $20 a month that they could figure out. There are ways to make extra money. You know, right now people are selling masks online, for example. I think Bishop mentioned, you know, selling things from your house. I mean, we all have random stuff in our house. I sell stuff on Craigslist, for example, you know, so it's important because you never know what will happen. Unfortunately, we have only so much control. You know, God really knows what's going to happen. We don't. And so you have to have money saved up, and it lets you do certain things. I mean, for example, if you lose your job right now, having that savings brings you ease of mind. You know, the most important thing about having savings is peace of mind. And, you know, not being stressed at night and waking up thinking about how you're going to pay your bills, how you're going to feed your kids, how you're going to take care of your parents who may be sick, you know, all of these different things that go along when you do not have a buffer or savings in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there were many years I didn't have that, but I got real, and that was that I'm sorry, people are sending in questions. I'm about to address those questions. Please keep sending your questions. We're going to address them in just a moment. But I went back, and in Genesis, God said that he blessed the storehouses. And you can go read the story about Joseph. Joseph went from the pit to the palace. Why? And his brothers had to come and borrow from him in what was known as the storehouse. So God can't bless your storehouse unless you have one, and your storehouse is your savings account. So as Phyllis said, I don't care, and I tell people all the time, whether it's $5 a month, $5 a paycheck. Listen, the reality is all of us could take $5 a paycheck. I don't care where you are in your budget place, at least to put that in your savings account and begin to get in a space where you're used to that, where when the deposit happens, whether you have online deposit or whatever it's called from your workplace, what's it called?
From your checking, from your paycheck, just have it automatic deposit.
Automatic, that's it. That's what I'm looking for. A direct deposit from your job. You can also work it out with the bank for a percentage to be transferred to your savings account. So, you know, I understand that it takes a minute, and I also understand that it can be very fearful. Some of you, I know, because you just asked some of these questions, have fear around bills that you owe. You're not answering phones. Do this. And I'm going to tell you what I tell people all the time. We've got to chase the giant, not run from the giant.
I like that.
Most of the time, folks will work with you. If they're not working with you, then get with somebody who can talk with them, to negotiate with them, to do some things. And and maybe you're way over the top in your bills compared to your income, then that's another conversation. But I want to say this. If you just ask God to help you and to bless you, God will do it.
Yeah.
God will do it. He will. God will help you. I promise you. God helped me. And I never in a million years thought that I could own houses. I've owned several houses. The things that I'm able to do. I'll tell you something really funny, Phyllis. This is really, really funny. And I know this sounds, and I'm going to address your questions now. I grew up eating government commodities, cheese, peanut butter, and those kind of things. But I realized today, and not because I'm rich of any kind, but I can go to the grocery store and walk around that cheese counter and buy any one of those cheeses right now. Now, that may seem silly to you, but to me, what it meant for me was that I had grown in a place financially where I learned how to save. I learned how not to spend everything that I've gotten. We are so we're so materialistic in a whole lot of ways. We think we got to get a new car every couple of years, and we got to, people have told me my car, I drive a 2012 Genesis. It looks great. It's paid off. It still works. There's not a reason for me to go buy another car until I need to. In the meantime, when that happens, I'm saving to make sure that I don't get trapped in one of those places, with all that crazy madness in buying a car. So, and just remember this, when you go in and buy a brand new car, you drive it off the lot, guess what? You lost a whole lot of moolah. Yes. Now, I'm not saying that a new car is not fun to get. It is. But the reality is you've got to know what you're dealing with. So that's a whole nother story. Listen, we've got several questions. Number one, somebody who's almost 80 years old said, I've never done a budget in my life. And they wanted to know what the app is. Can you tell them that app again?
Sure. It's mint.com. So if you are on your phone, you just go to the store where you download your apps, or you can also go online if you have a computer, and it's mint.com, and it's also free.
MINT.
MINT, yes. There's also one that helps you called Snowball, and you can go online and use that. That's one sometimes I use for folks who have a lot of interest in it. What it'll do, I don't know if Mint does because I've never used it, so maybe you can tell me. But the Snowball, what it does will take your interest rates and show you which ones need to get paid off first, what's the easiest, quickest way to pay certain things off. So then, and then the money that you have that you've been paying on one bill, then you add it to the next one. So there's where the expeditiously place comes in paying things off. So let's say you have 5 credit cards, and these apps teach you how to get one paid off. That doesn't mean that money is going in your pocket. It means what you're doing is you're taking that money and then applying it to the next one and the next one, and then you watch that snowball. That's why it's called a snowball. Where you are, and then you're no longer in debt. This is the thing that you want to remember. Money is a tool. And you don't want to be a slave to it. You want it to be a tool for you. What's the other question there?
What percentage should one save for miscellaneous needs? And another question was, as a couple, they have big issues around saving together. So how do you recommend starting that?
So someone's asking about the percentage of saving, and I'll say something to that. I'll let you say that, but I think that the percentage has to be based on what you can do, depending on your debt to income ratio. What would you say, Phyllis? when someone
Yeah,
wants to
I mean, that's
know
interesting because,
they say.
but
Internet feed
what
issue.
I tell people is in terms of a percentage, you know, set a goal. But the other thing is I always say operate one level or two levels really below where you are. So, and I can't remember who said it, but, you know, 10 years ago, we were, most of us, making less than what we're making today. So just because we get a raise, we don't need to operate at that capacity. So if you look at what you were making 5, 10 years ago and you see that gap, just take 20% of that and put that in savings. So there's not a hardcore goal, but I do want to address a couple questions because I deal with that a lot, especially when I'm dealing with clients who one person wants to start a business. And so when someone wants to start a business, it means someone's probably quitting a job that's bringing in income to have a situation where for 3 to 6 months, there's not a lot of money coming in. And so I do address that piece heavily. And actually do counseling and consulting with clients who are married just so that their marriage doesn't fall apart because someone wants to go after their passion. And so one thing that I personally suggest is this: everyone's going to have different financial backgrounds and starting places and goals. So you should have a joint together, sit down and decide this is what we're going to put in there together, and this is what our goal is going to be. For example, my husband and I, we have a travel account together, and we decide we're going to contribute equally. So if he uses his disposable income for something, or I do, there's not an issue because we both are contributing jointly to this account. And sit down and discuss your goal. Also, find some books to read. Money Mindset is a good one by Dave Ramsey. Like, you get together, make it a goal where, yes, you may have a TV show that you watch, you guys go to church together, talk about your money together. You have to get comfortable doing that because really you have to be in the same mindset that goes along.
Right. And some of you remember on Friday night when we had the couples of faith on, and you remember Bishop Byrd and Pastor Roberts saying how they were alphas, both alphas, and that what they did was they had their money separate and they brought into a household account. Sounds like Phyllis has something like that with her husband with a travel account. Look, I tell you what, one size does not fit all in this world. Okay, get over that. Let's stop all that. That stuff that worked for our mamas and our grandma mamas 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago doesn't work today in a modern day where we are. So work it out with your wife, your husband, your partner, whatever that is financially. Work it out. Just work out what works out and then make it happen. Make it happen. Because, and listen, finances are a number one reason why folks get a divorce. So don't let it happen. Don't let it happen. I mean, folks fight all the time about money in relationships. No reason to, because again, let money be a tool in your hand. And I will be the first to say that giving was the space for me that caused a flow of cash to come into my life that oftentimes I don't even know. And I've shared this story many, many times. In the crash of 2008, of the housing crash in 2008, my mortgage was $5,000 at $1 million house in Southern California. My income went from 6 figures to $8,000 in 1 year, but I never lost that house and I never missed a payment. Now, there are a number of reasons. Number one, I had some savings, like what I'm telling you. I had some things that I could liquidate to do that. But thirdly, I had been giving and giving all over the United States. And at one point, people started sending me checks from places where I had preached years ago and different places, and folks just poured back into my life. And until, some things changed. So, God really does want to bless you. There's a way the scriptures tell us how to handle money. And I just want to encourage you tonight. I'm grateful for Phyllis. Phyllis, do you help couples or help individuals with their budgeting, and I know you do other things, but is that one of your services of your consulting business?
Yes, so I do work with individuals on creating their personal budget, even maintaining their personal budget. So I do have clients where I actually maintain that. We do a monthly meeting, we review, we go over their goals, because everyone has a goal. So that is something I do on a personal basis as well.
So I would encourage you, scrolling across the bottom there should be Phyllis's website. Please make sure that you get in touch with her. There's also her email address there. She's a very wise sister, and God has brought her to us tonight. And I want to encourage you to please get in touch with her. If you say to me, well, Bishop, I don't really know her, that's okay. I wouldn't have brought her on if I didn't trust her. Okay. But you can call us at 877-386-3806. We can connect you if for some reason you real quickly didn't write that down. But I want to encourage you tonight. Let's start this. Let's get this thing going. Let's make sure. I know there's some things I got to even tweak in my own life tonight, just thinking about it. But let's make sure that, number one, we're putting ourselves in the right space, in the right place financially. Let's make sure that we're not enslaved to the money, that the money's a tool in our hands. Okay? And and if you are over your head in debt, but you don't know where to start, listen, contact Phyllis, contact myself. We will help you. Don't run from the giant. You've got to chase the giant. Most people will work with you. They will work with you. Any closing comments that you have tonight, Phyllis, before we come on off of here?
I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity, Bishop Bonnie, because I am very passionate about this. And, you know, it's never too late to start. I mean, to think that someone's 80 still wants to create a budget, it's never too late. And it's also on the flip side, it's never too soon to start. I mean, so even for the people who are maybe young on this, it's better if you start earlier. It's a lot easier in the long run. So I just want to say thank you. And then also for anyone who's interested, if you send me an email, I do free consultations, no cost, no charge. So if you just want to bounce some ideas off of someone, because I know it's kind of scary to share your financial information with, you know, loved ones or friends or family sometimes because you feel like they're going to judge you. I'm a safe place for you to have that discussion. I know a lot of stuff. I have done taxes for many years. I, work with the IRS, so I understand every story, every possible thing that you can tell me, no judgment. So if you feel like you want to, feel free to, and I can get that consultation scheduled for you. So thank you very much.
You're so welcome. So let's run down some of the things that you do so other people know. I heard you mention taxes. So you do taxes?
Yes, so we do everything. So we do accounting, we do payroll, we do bookkeeping, we do taxes. I'm also a registered agent here in Nevada, so I set up LLCs and S Corps as well. I do business plans. So I do a lot of startup services for the person who wants to start a business, including on a personal basis, helping you increase your credit score. So my passion really is working with individuals, small business owners so that they can grow and succeed financially.
Beautiful. And I also noticed personally, because I was looking for someone, you also do resumes, right?
Yes. So I do have a background in HR as well. I'm HR certified, so I do resumes and also help people with job searches as well.
Perfect. Well, we want to thank you again for coming on tonight, for sharing your knowledge and your gift that God has given to you. We want to say that I believe that God is going to bless your business beyond your imagination in 2020. Like I said a couple of nights ago, I remember in December 31st, New Year's Eve, coming on and sharing wonderful things. 2020 is going to be great. It's the year of vision and provision. Nothing about that has changed, beloved. Don't let this virus cause you to crawl in a hole and not start the business this is the perfect time. God is bringing entrepreneurs out like crazy. Please Get yourself together. Call Phyllis. See how you can make sure that you can start this business that's been in the dream space of your life. And let's make it a reality of a lot of things for you. God is still wanting to bless you. Nothing about that has changed. Genesis says we are blessed to be a blessing. That word blessed, listen, let's stop thinking, oh, how you doing? I'm blessed. You know what the word blessed means? Bestowing goods. Bestowing goods. That means tangible stuff. I'm blessed with tangible things to bless you with tangible things, and vice versa. God has blessed us with tangible things. So God bless you tonight. Thank you again, Phyllis, for joining us on tonight. Again, if we can help you tonight, please call us at 877-386-3806. Again, 877-386-3806. And also, we can't keep doing this without your financial support. Thank you so much for those of you who have been giving, some lots, some little. Listen, we appreciate every gift. You can give to us via Givelify, Givelify, and you go to that, you download that app one time, and in about another week, we will have that on our website where all you do is just click on it, and it'll just help you to walk through that process. Look up right now, Refiners Fire Fellowship, United Church of Christ, or you can give via Cash App, which is $, Bishop Bonnie, capital B's on both of those. We appreciate your gifts. Thank you so much. We want to say God bless you tonight. Please remember, God is trying to get something to you, not from you. We'll see you.